On this episode of A Soul's Quest podcast, we're chatting with producer, engineer, songwriter, technology enthusiast, and more, Maximino Perez, also known as Mighty Max. Stay tuned. Let's get started. I'm just going to go right into it. So, okay. Max, right?
Maximino Perez Jr. That's my whole name.
Really?
All right.
Wow. I like that. Maximino. I've never heard that before.
Maximino. Yeah. People always like, how'd you they hear Maximilian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maximus.
Maximino is Maximus. But they never get Maximino though.
Where did that come from? Where, like, whose idea was it?
Well, my father was named Maximino Perez, so I'm Maximino Perez Jr.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, sweet.
So Omar always gets me on this because I dive right into these interviews, but I'm just gonna go right into it. Tell us where you were born. I want to know about your dependency stage. Where were you born? Your family structure. Talk to us. Share.
I was born in Manhattan.
Okay.
1971, but raised in the Bronx. We moved to the Bronx when I was 2 years old. I moved to the Castle Hill projects.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I grew up in the Castle Hill projects. My mom and my dad, they were together. So we had a family structure. I had two older sisters. So I was the baby.
Okay. That's nice.
They spoiled me.
I was just going to say, did they spoil you? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a little leverage there.
Uh-huh.
But, I grew up in a great family, I never realized that I was poor, till I got older. And because my parents, we didn't feel that, we had everything we needed. Christmas time, we had the toys, both my parents were there, like I said. So I never realized I was poor until I wanted a pair of Adidas sneakers. And they were like, that's $40. We can't get you that. This is in the 70s now.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, what? And then I realized, then I was poor. And then then everything else came into play. Oh, wow. Okay. We at the free cheese line. You know what I'm saying? Go to the store. Oh, I got food stamps. Okay. This is government. Okay. I see what's going on. So we're not, we're not rich or but that didn't bother me. It kind of inspired me as a kid to want more,
Okay.
It kind of inspired me to want more because I saw, my father. I remember this story really vividly because when I think of it now, it makes me feel sad. So I wanted these pair of sneakers, right? They were called kangaroos. I don't know if any of you guys
I remember those. Yeah, I do remember those. Those were like super popular.
Right. They were really popular. And I wanted them so bad. And they were like $40, $50 at the time. And I remember my father getting paid that day. And I was like, I saw him with his wad of money, right? And I was like, wow, you got all that money. He was like, yeah. He goes, can you buy me those sneakers? And he was like, yeah, we're going to go get you those sneakers. And I was like, how much money you got? And he was like, I got I got paid $150.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And when I thought about it then, I was like, wow, you got a lot of money. But when I think about it now, my father was raising, trying to raise a family, making $150 a week.
Yes.
And then he bought my sneakers that cost $40. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's when I think about all those things, I would realize that I was poor, but it also made me realize that I wanted more. Like I told you guys. So, I got into my mother, actually, she put me in a bunch of different things, right? She kept me off the streets.
Okay.
So she put me in a marching band. So that's how I got into music, right? I was a drummer. And then I got into hip hop, right? 12 years old. I was a break dancer. I was in a crew called the East Bronx Breakers.
All right.
And we were really popular in my neighborhood. It was like hood famous.
Famous, yeah. That's the best kind of famous, ain't it? Yeah, that's the best kind of famous right there.
That was really a good fame. So I was hood famous. But we got to do a lot of things. We traveled, we performed at places. We won some really big b-boy battle contests at the time. We battled one of the biggest crews and we beat them, the Rocksteady crew.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
And we were 12 years old, 12, 13 years old. They were older than us. They were 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can ask him too, because he knows. Our crew beat them. We were called the East Bronx Breakers. So I grew up with a lot of culture, right? You know, like hip hop. I mean, we were doing it without even realizing we were doing it. You know what I'm saying? It was just part of our lives.
That's one thing that I really, there's two things that I want to backtrack on, because you mentioned something that resonates with me. I was born in Dominican Republic, and I always tell people I never knew what it was to be poor, you know, so I could relate to that part. And I attribute that always to my parents. So I want to backtrack a little bit, because what you're mentioning right now, it's the beauty of growing up in with a big sense of culture. But you mentioned that your mother put you in all these things. So I want to backtrack, and I want to talk first about, let's talk about your mother and that influence, because a lot of people don't understand the important role that it is to be a mother and a father, and they take that for granted because there was a sacrifice. So let's talk about your mom and your relationship with her, because that's something that I really wanted to dive into.
Yeah, I mean, I was mama's baby boy, so you can imagine, right? She had two girls, and I was the only boy. And my mom, she was one of the first open heart surgery. She was one of the first people that got an open heart surgery when she was 16 years old. So the doctors told her that she couldn't have me.
Oh, really?
Wow. Right. She couldn't have any of us, but me especially, because I was the last one, right? And they were like, no, you shouldn't have a baby. And she was like, no, I'm having this baby. And she had me. So I appreciate her from the jump for just, you know, going through and having us. But my mom was a loving person. She just wanted to keep us away. You know, she knew the neighborhood we were living in and how bad it was getting, especially in the 70s, right? The Bronx was burning. Right.
Yep.
And so from the beginning, she just made sure that we were always busy, like that we were always doing something. So I was in the Boy Scouts, I was in baseball, I was in basketball. She put me in a marching band. I performed at every Puerto Rican parade from the time I was 5 to about 14 years old. I performed in every Puerto Rican parade. Wow. She was, you know, a loving mom, very strict about school, right? Quick story about my mom and school, right? I'm jumping now to high school. I graduated early from high school, and that's attributed to her, because instead of being, you know, hanging out in the summer, my mom was like, you got to go to school. So I used to have to go to summer school.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't have to go to summer school. Yeah. But it was a blessing, because it made me, I graduated early. And when we get into the story, you'll see the reason why that changed my life. Yeah. You know, as we get to that. Yeah. Okay. But my mom was great. You know, it was hard to balance, you know. I'm sure it was hard for, you know, of course, having a little money and having 3 kids. But I think she did a great job. Like, you know, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I want to ask you this, because growing up in the Bronx, Castle Hill, being a young person involved in a new movement, in a new culture movement, it takes a lot of discipline not to stray. You know, I mean, I know that you've seen that. We'll talk about that later on down the conversation. And it takes a lot of guts, because, you know, I know how it is. Our boys in the South Bronx, you're a mama's boy, you know, you do whatever your mama's wants you to do, and she's very strict. How do you deal with that? How are you able to deal with that part? Because I know that you probably caught some slack from your friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. My mom was really strict, right? But she knew that I was passionate about this culture, right? Dancing and music. She knew that from a very young age. And I had a friend, I was in a group, right? A B-boy group. I told you, East Bronx Breakers. And my mom met one of my guys in the group's mom, and she was the manager of our group. So my mom let me hit the streets because she knew that I was with somebody most of the time. Sometimes we weren't. Because I was on the street at 12 years old, but I wasn't on the street, wilding out, going crazy. That came later, but I was just performing and going to shows and practicing, with a lot of practice. So we would go to this community room and just practice all day. But there's a lot of my friends that didn't have like a mom like mine that was on top of me like that, so she always wanted to make sure she knew where I was at. And I grew up with a lot of friends that passed away. I lived in the building 2125, became a really big drug dealer building. And and I don't blame my friends. Everybody was just trying to survive.
Understood.
It wasn't like, it wasn't even like we want to do this because we greedy. It was like we want to do this because we're trying to survive out here. So I had my friends that were selling crack at a really young age, making a lot of money. But then I seen a lot of them just pass away, and when I think about it now, and I've thought about this throughout my life, but it was because of my mom, my mom being the way she was with me, really helped me. People would laugh at me, some, oh, you got to go upstairs, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that bothered me at that time, but when I think about it now, it was something that had to be done. And as a parent, I'm sure she saw like, I got to protect my boy, you know what I'm saying, and make sure that I know where he's at, I know who he's with, I know who he's hanging out with. And there was times when I was just hanging out. And she didn't know what I was doing. I would tell her I'm going here and I would be over there, you know?
Yeah.
We all did that. Yeah. But she was great. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be, I'm definitely wouldn't be where I am right now. Yeah. But, and then there's some negative things about my mom, like there's a yin and a yang to everything, right?
Yeah.
So, my mom, like I told you, she had open heart surgery when she was young. But she also had all types of medical issues, right? And a lot of them were, I think, more psychological, and my mom is still around right now, and thank God she is. But a lot of that was psychological, and I realized that as well when I was younger, and I realized that I had to really mentally be tough and not fall into the cycle of poverty. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
A cycle of poverty where it's just not about money, right? It's about mental attitude, right? It's about health. Because if you look, and when I go back and I see people in my old projects, I'm like, wow, they've aged. We're not healthy,
Yeah.
So it's a lot of things, but I love my mom and she's amazing. So
good. Yeah. Let me ask you this, because you also grew up with your dad. Tell us a little bit about your dad. You said the story about how much he was making on a weekly basis, and the shoes. Tell us about him. Tell us about your relationship with him. Some of those yin and yang parts.
Yeah, my dad was a hard worker. Like, he just worked hard. Got his hands dirty. You know what I'm saying? He worked in a factory. Back then, a factory in the South Bronx, right? He made these statues, like these figurines, and that was his job back then. So he was always working long hours. And he loved the track. He loved to bet.
Thought you were going to say run.
No. He loved the horses. Remember OTB? I don't know if you remember that.
I remember OTB. Yeah. What is it? The Westchester County Fair up there. Right?
Yeah, up there. Yep, exactly. Yonkers. So I knew it was a good day when he came home at midnight with like some Jack in the Box. Remember that? Jack in the Box. When he came with some, I knew it was a good night that he won or whatever. Yeah. So he was, that's what he loved to do. You know what I'm saying? He worked hard and then he loved the track. So you could see that dynamic, right? Yeah. Like, oh shit, I lost everything this week,
Yeah.
Did that cause any friction between the two of them?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask
between my
that.
mom. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sure it did. There was times where we heard the yelling, we heard the fighting, but that that's every relationship. But
yes,
every
is.
relationship has those kind of issues. And if you don't, then you're really blessed, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, I think you're blessed even when you have that, because you have to have sort of this realness to this relationship dynamic too. I mean, nobody's relationship is perfect, no matter what you see on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Absolutely.
not. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a blessing more than a perfect relationship, because there's no such thing.
Right.
Personally.
Right. But my dad was good. He was a hard worker. He passed away when I was in my 30s. He died of diabetes. Again, health.
Yeah,
right.
health.
That's a real big reason the way I live my life right now. I take care of myself. I eat well. I exercise. I yoga. I meditate. All these things are because of what my family went through and that I didn't want to go through. That I want to make sure that I'm strong. Yeah. I just turned 50 this year.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
You don't look 50. But he did say 71. Yeah. Okay.
And I made it. I made it from the Bronx through all the adversities, you know what I'm saying? And I'm here. So, and there's so much more to do. That's what I'm excited about.
That's the beauty of it all. Yeah. Okay. One last relationship. Those formative relationships are so key. And that's one of the things that I want to touch to our audience, because there's a responsibility that it takes to be a parent, because we always stand in shoulders of giants, and our parents are those giants that brought us here, for better or worse. They got us here, so we got to take advantage of that. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with your sisters. They're doted on you. You were the baby. I'm sure that they were that if something was happening to be the first ones down there. Getting ready. So let's talk about your sisters.
I have two sisters. One, my youngest sister, not my younger sister. She, God bless her, she still takes care of my mom right now to this day. And that's important. And I love her for being there for her, but she was the tough one, right? She was the one that had my back on the streets. Like, anybody mess with me, she came downstairs and took care of business. So nobody would mess with me because they knew my sister.
Wow.
My sister was gonna come down and take care of it. Like, there's numerous times where she came down and look out for her little brother. So I love her for that. My older sister left, which was great for her. She realized, we live, like I told you, we lived in the Bronx, in the hood, in the projects, and she realized that she wanted something better, and she moved to Texas to move with my aunt, and she built the whole life over there, and she's doing wonderful right now. Sorry with the camera.
No, you're fine.
But and I understand. Like, we don't get mad. It's not like, oh, you left us or anything like that. It was more like, you did what you needed to do to build a better life. So my sister's doing great. And they were always supportive of me. I was their little brother. So I was, like I said, I was spoiled.
That's good.
But I was living with all women because my father was working all the time. And I was always with women.
That is exactly what I was just going to ask you, is what was that like? Because you're like the only guy. If your dad worked late hours, what was that like?
Yeah, he was always working. You know what I hated the most about being the only boy? When they would tell me, can you run to the store and get us some maxi pads? I had to go get them. And
no.
And you did it?
And
you had to. It's no choice.
And that would be the worst. I'd be like, oh, you really guys? And I would have to go look and come with a box and paper it. But it was great. My sisters, I love both of them. They were great. My sister's the one that she got my oldest sister, Ruthie. She was the first one to get like a radio for Christmas. Remember, radios in the 70s, she got a radio, and we used to listen to 98.7 Kiss FM.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
and it was hip hop.
Yeah.
And it was so brand new. We used to leave the radio on all night. So we used to fall asleep with the music.
Nice.
And I really think that that's another reason why music is so influential in my life, because it was just on all the time. We were listening to and most of it was hip hop or R&B or some Spanish music, right? Because my mom and my dad.
Yeah.
But my sisters were great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what is your background? You said you were.
I'm Puerto Rican.
Okay, you're Puerto Rican. Oh, Puerto Rican.
Raised. A Puerto Rican raised in the Bronx, a New Yorican.
Yeah, New Yorican.
Yeah.
My dad's a New Yorican, so yeah. That's kind of cool.
The first time I went to Puerto Rico, I was like 13 years old.
Okay.
How was that?
How was it?
Wow, it was cool. I went with my dad. It was just me and my dad. I got to see his family. I remember this one thing that sticks in my mind all the time. We were like in this little campo, right? And I remember seeing the pigs running around and the chickens running around. I was like, wow, that's cool. And the next thing you knew, I was seeing a pig get slaughtered.
I feel like everybody that's from the Caribbean has that story.
It's
and that was like, at the time, that was like, oh my God. And then I had to eat the thing. You know what I mean?
And you can't be rude about it either.
It's traumatic, right?
No, you can't be rude about it.
All night, you know?
Oh, man. But I feel like all people from the Caribbean have the same story. Omar has the story. Maria has this. It's crazy.
Yeah. But coming from the city, right? Because you don't get to see this stuff in the city.
No.
And seeing that and knowing that, wow, that's part of my heritage. How did that make you feel? Because that's a cultural shock.
I was just like, because we would eat this stuff in New York, of course, pernil and my father would love pig feet. I'm like, I know, I'm not with the pig feet. Morcilla, remember that? Morcilla.
Oh, I love morcilla. I still do to this day.
I used to love morcilla until I realized what the hell
what it was.
Yeah, same. I've been knowing what that is. I don't mess with that. Or pig's feet.
So, because in the city, we don't get this because everything is brought here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You go to the supermarket, it's there.
Packaged.
So when you go to a place like Puerto Rico and you got to pick something off the tree or you got to get the chicken, and it makes you like, wow, like I used to think I was lucky that I lived in New York, because I didn't have to go through that all, because we were there for 2 weeks, but I knew I was going back home.
Yeah.
But cold showers, right?
Yes.
The power goes out.
Power goes out.
So it kind of made you realize, wow, I live in New York City, which is cool. But now that I'm older, I kind of wish I had more of that.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, because I'm more in tune with nature now, and how we're. I mean, if you think about it, we are spoiled, right? We live in the best time in history.
Yes.
When it comes to the things that we have and how we get our food and
our access,
it's just there.
Yeah.
We don't think about it. Like I try to tell this to my kids. We're lucky that we're able to get these things. We don't even have to think about it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't have to think about it.
Not at all.
It's a sense of appreciation when you're able to go into that and see that and then come back to what you have. Yeah. Even if it's minimal, what you go back to, it's still that
appreciation
a privilege.
is the right word.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
And so that's why that first trip to Puerto Rico was like a culture shock, but it was also like appreciation, right? And I realized that at a young age.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting that you mentioned that, because again, now growing up, never feeling poor, but then realizing that you were, but then going back and you still had that appreciation for those things at a very, very young age. It's those are experiences that are very formative and very powerful. And that's something that I we're going to touch on that later on, because that's another one of my reflection questions.
All right.
But let's talk about education, right? Again, that's something that your mother was big on, and obviously you are as well. Tell us about first, which high school did you go to? Let me figure.
I went to Stevenson High School in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Stevenson. You know Stevenson?
Yes, I know Stevenson. I went to Smith.
Oh, you went to Smith. Okay.
I went to Smith. Yeah. So we were
no PS, whatever that is.
Well, I went to IS 115th, for middle school.
Gotcha. I went to IS 174 and PS 138.
And PS 138. Okay.
And that's Stevens and whatever.
No, Stevenson is the high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about all that. So
all my schools were local.
Yeah.
I did do a stint in the Catholic school for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
But then my mom told me we couldn't afford it, so I went back to public school.
No, went back to public school. So tell us about your education from elementary, the middle school years. How were those? How were your grades? What school something that you really enjoyed and then you thrived on?
I think what school taught me is basically how to communicate and interact with other people mostly. You know what I'm saying? As far as the education part, they gave us the basics, but I never thought that school, especially public school in New York at the time, pushed me. Like it was easy for me, right? For me, I kind of like didn't even think about school. I just kind of just went and got there and raised my hand a couple of times and passed. It was only after I finished high school that I realized that I didn't know anything, and I had to educate myself. And
what do you mean by that?
Because I don't think schools, especially now, even back then, we're not taught to be leaders or independent thinkers or even entrepreneurs. They don't teach us about money. They don't teach us about real life skills. It's just more memory based and spitting out facts.
Right.
And I don't think that's the best way to teach our kids.
Agreed.
Yeah. So that's how, and I didn't realize that until after, but school was a breeze for me. I was a B+ student because I didn't even try. It was just like, all right, I'll memorize this for a day, and then that was out the window again. You know what I mean? It was like, but I do appreciate my school for one thing, right? That especially my high school, that it changed my life. This is what we were talking about earlier. So I finished school early because of my mom sending me to summer school every year. So I finished school in December of my senior year.
Oh, wow.
But I had to wait to graduate with my class in June. So I had 6 months where they were like, what are you going to do? Like, we need to have you do something. So they were like, we have this program. It's called the Executive Internship Program. This is when internships first started out.
Yeah.
And they were free and not free, but you could go to internship in high school. So I was like, I want to work in a recording studio. And they were like, oh, we don't know. Everybody was raising their hand. I want to work in a lawyer's office. I want to work in a doctor's office. I want to work here.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to work in a recording studio because I like music.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. So they were like, we don't know if we have that. So anyway, they came back to me. And 2 weeks later, they were like, we don't have a recording studio, but we have something called a post-production studio. And I was like, what's that? They were like, it has something to do with like radio and a little bit of TV. And I was like, I'll check it out. So I went to the job, to the interview, and the place was amazing. This is the first time I really got exposed to white people besides my teachers.
Besides your teachers, wow.
Yeah. Wow. Because before that,
they're not in the neighborhood.
And Latinos.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was the first time I was exposed to white people, and I kind of loved it. Like it was, they had 7 studios, and I was just excited to just be around there. And it took me away from the street again.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I mean? So that was big because I had to jump on a train, go to Manhattan. Sorry, I had to go to Manhattan. So it kept me again away from just being out there hanging out, maybe getting in trouble. So that one thing changed my life, and I knew that I wanted to like do that, right? So I started, and I was a production assistant, right? Making copies of tapes and radio commercials and freestyle music tapes, copies of tapes. Like, there's a funny story. At that job as an intern, there was a young freestyle artist that had just put a song out, and his name was Mark Anthony.
Oh wow,
that is hilarious!
And
wow.
I had to create like 1,000 copies of this Mark Anthony freestyle song. I think it wasn't really good, the freestyle stuff. But,
do you still have a tape somewhere? You should send it to him.
I wish.
Remember this?
I wish I had that. But so I got to see things like that. I got to see like hip hop artists come through and do commercials. I used to work with a lady called Downtown Julie Brown.
Oh my gosh!
Wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
I also work with a guy named Ted Demi who created MTV Rap. MTV Yo Raps, which was the biggest hip hop show back in the days.
Oh yeah,
with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre.
Exactly. But he was the creator. His name is Ted Demi, and he actually passed away. But it was great. So I wanted to work there. Like I was like, no, I have to. My internship is over in June, so I worked extra hard for them. So like when my time was up and I could leave, which was like 3:00 because it was a school schedule.
Yeah.
I used to stay till 6:00, 7:00. And I think they kind of saw my passion and really wanting to be there. And I used to talk to the boss and be like, listen, when I graduate, I want a job. I want a job.
Yeah.
I want a job. And I used to always tell them, I want a job. Right. So, they had hired somebody like, maybe a month before I'm supposed to graduate, and I'm like, damn, I'm not gonna get this job. They just hired this guy. I'm gonna have to, figure it out.
Yeah.
But the day my last day at the studio, they came up to me and they were like, "Would you like a job?"
Ooh.
Just like that. Would you like a job? I was like, oh my God. And they fired the other guy.
Oh my God.
He wasn't cutting it. He wasn't cutting it.
He wasn't cutting it. And they gave me the job. And I remember I was making $350 a week.
Wow.
I was balling, right?
Yeah, you were.
I was 17 years old.
Oh yeah.
You
definitely balling.
I had a job out of high school in a recording studio.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. So that changed my life,
So let me
my path.
Yeah.
Good. Let me ask you that, because this we believe that education, and you're absolutely right about education, right? I like the origin of the word. It has two meanings, right? One is instruction, which is really what we get in schools. Not very good instruction, but instruction nonetheless. And the other part is the experience, right? And what you're describing right now is almost like falling in love, like nobody could tell you, and nobody could tell you this is your path. It happened.
It happened.
Can you tell me it happened, but also there were a lot of choices that you made? I want you to take us to the feeling of being in that studio for the first time, and knowing in your heart, in your soul, this is it for me, because that's the part that is it's an art more than it is a process. You know what I mean? And very seldom do people find that. I think it comes to all of us. Some of us listen to it, some of us ignore it, but you chose to listen to it. So tell me about that feeling when you were there, when you were engrossed in it. How did it feel like?
I just knew that it was the right thing to do for some reason. I mean, because when they gave me the tour of the place, they took me to all the studios, and I was like, is that a drum machine? They were like, no, that's a tape machine. What is that? Like the curiosity was there,
Nice.
and I knew that right there that. Yeah, I this is not a music studio, but the equipment is the same, they told me. And they had studios and they had microphones. And I was like, you know what? I'll do this, because if not, then what's the other choice too, right? Like what I'm going to do, go back to Stevenson, stay in the street, like help a teacher,
Mm-hmm. And this is probably the closest that you were, even at the time you may not have known this is perfect. This was going to be the closest that you were going to get to doing the recordings, the music, right? So,
yes.
Okay, yeah.
This is the closest I was going to get. Right. So I took it.
Right.
And I took it, and like he said, the feeling was like, this is right. It felt right. You know what I'm saying? And I was making money. I mean, not at the internship level,
right,
but in the summer of that year, I started making money. And, you know, and to be, you know what? I skipped the whole part. I was a paper boy.
Oh, okay.
Before that, like from 12 years old to about 16 years old, I was a paper boy. I used to wake up every morning at 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
To deliver papers 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Come rain, snow, everything.
Snow, no matter what, I had to deliver those papers. So that kind of built this discipline of hard work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so when I saw that, and you know, I had another job before that, before I got to you know, after 60, I worked in a supermarket at Key Food.
Key Food.
I got fired.
You got fired? What happened? Can I ask?
Yeah, of course.
Just curious.
Somebody was supposed to do something at the job, right? And I guess it fell on me, but I didn't think it was my responsibility. Like it was kind of thrown on me. Yeah. So I got demoted, right? And I was told to go work and at the front and pack groceries.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not doing that.
Nah, that's too embarrassing. My boys come here.
I went from dairy. No, I'm not doing that.
That's a big demotion.
I stood my ground and I got fired.
Wow. Well, good for you. That's actually a good story.
And I got fired. And I remember that day because I cried because I wanted, you know, I was like, damn, that was unfair. I felt like it was unfair, you know? Yeah. But then that whole opportunity came, you know?
Yeah.
And I went with that. And you know, everything happens for a reason, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad I didn't stay there because maybe I would have been there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
could have been the manager.
Yeah. I remember the managers, what they made too. I said, oh, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah.
Nah, we're good.
But the experience was great. And I knew that I was, that's where I needed to be at that time in my life.
Let me backtrack just a little bit because your love of music and the art and the expression of it. Artist, you know, true artist really, that comes from a different place. You know, it doesn't come from the intellect. It comes from a different place. So your journey as a b-boy dancer, tell us about that experience a little bit, because it merges with this stage and in which you're beginning, you found a job, you're beginning to self-reliant. But I don't want to move forward without touching on that part, because that was very formative too.
Oh my God, that was amazing. That gave me confidence.
Okay.
And, you know, as a child, it's very important to build confidence in kids.
Yes.
You know, that's why we do sports. That's why, you know, they play piano, they do music, because, you know, they just need that one thing to make them feel good. And b-boying was that one thing for me. I mean, because, you know, I don't know if you remember those old school parties, boy, but
oh yeah,
the circle, go down and break, you know?
Yeah.
And if you danced, you got the girls.
Yep.
So
priorities. At the time, right? Yeah.
Now you need money, right? Now you need money. But then you need girls. Then you need to know how to dance.
Yeah, you had to bring the skills. You had to have the skills.
Right.
So that kind of inspired, you know, that kind of built my confidence up, you know, and people knew who you were, you know, like I said, it was ghetto fame, street fame, you know, and the hood knew who you were. So it built that confidence. And I've had a lot of fun in my life. Like there's a lot of moments that I could be like, wow, that was great. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to do that. But at the early stage of my life, that was like amazing because I was doing what I loved.
Yes.
Right? I was dancing. I was traveling. I was performing. It was great. And it, like I said, it built that confidence. So yeah, breakdancing was very influential. And it also built my palette of music, right? Because I was listening to everything hip hop at the time, you know? So it kind of built that love for the culture and the music, you know?
Yeah. So how was that you're growing up, I mean, you're immersed in hip hop culture at its essence. At its essence, I mean, that's the very.
We weren't thinking about making money.
No,
it was just, this is what we do.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning of a cultural and global revolution. You're not thinking that it's not your thought at the moment, but when you look back at it, I mean, there's very few of you that could say that.
Oh man, I always look back at it and like, wow. One of the things I do regret, but I don't regret it because it lives in my heart and my brain, is that as a younger kid, and it gets me, what's the word? Not jealous, but I wish we had this when we were younger. So think about this, right? So kids nowadays could document their whole life.
Yes. Yeah.
We couldn't do that.
No.
I wish I could have documented my life with like social media, with video, with having a phone so I could take pictures, because there were so many amazing moments that just live here. You know, I have a couple of newspaper articles, I have a couple of pictures of us, but if I could see video of that and show my kids, like, yo, look, this was us, you know, this is what we were doing back then. It would have been amazing. So that's the only thing I regret. So the difference between us, like my crew, the East Bronx Breakers, and let's say the Rocksteady crew, is that the Rocksteady crew documented their journey.
They did. Yeah, they did.
They have it on tape, you know, and we didn't. And that's why, you know, we don't have that that fame or that acknowledgement
the
in
archive.
The culture. The archive, which is super important. But, you know, but people who were there know.
They know.
Yes.
And they know. So that's what gives me, you know, like, you know, I'm cool with that. You know, I'm cool with that. And I have my memories that live up here.
Right.
But also in a more, you know, holistic way. And this is what one of the things that I like to tell people is that, yes, it's not documented, but the actions that were taken and the things that you guys did, other people watched and saw and implemented and grew the culture and grew the movement. So it's almost like the epitome of doing what you love and then impacting the world because of it without the recognition of it.
Yeah, because you didn't know that you were doing that because you did it, and it was an exponential thing if you think about it, because people were latching onto that. Go, I want to be like that guy. I want to do that too. True. Oh my God, these guys are amazing.
Because you trust me. I mean, like we all know that, you know, if you nobody says, and when they pick the top 5 rappers, nobody says KRS-One, but we all know the truth, you know. But if it wasn't for him, all these other guys that heard him would have never. Develop that type.
They like, I want to be like Chris, you know. Let's, you know, and then it goes on from there. You know,
from there,
like this, I want to be like that.
So that's kind of like what when I'm listening to your story, it's that, and this is one of the things that I always encourage people: when you follow what you love, it may not benefit you right off the bat, but the influence exponentially that he has on other people, you know, that you could have now, the entire world dancing to your moves because somebody else saw you do it. That's an amazing, beautiful thing. But it's hard to see in a limited time and space, you know. But that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
One of the things that I also love about that moment was we didn't realize is the fashion that we were creating. You know, like shell top Adidas with big fat laces.
Yes.
You know, jean jackets with pieces on the back. Gold chains with nameplates.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Gold dookie ropes. You know, this is all stuff that, you know, that's why I had that paper route.
Yeah.
I just my parents, you know, they didn't have the money to buy that stuff for me, and I needed to get money, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I just did that to buy those things, those sneakers, and to be fresh when I was going down battling somebody, you know. But I didn't realize the impact of all that. Like, I didn't realize it was a culture. It was just This is what we do. This is how we dress. This is what we move. This is how we talk.
Yeah.
You know,
you were making a statement.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, but again, it's like it's. You want to be get famous, but that's the beauty of life, you know. I mean, you may not have the archive, but your actions impacted.
I think
the history of music. People. I mean, it has impacted the history of music, and that's how significant it is, even though there's no records of it. That's beautiful. I think that's poetically beautiful and just that of itself.
Yeah. Thank you. I have a question for you because we went right into the dependency stage. I didn't even have to introduce it because it was like seamless, so it's perfect. But one of the things that I'm curious about as you were becoming a high school young adult, now you're in the record studio, you're doing all this stuff that you love and that you want to be a part of, meeting celebrities or would-be celebrities. Did you have any like role models or any mentors that you sort of followed or that were a big part of your life at the time?
I do. I had this one lady. Her name was Yvonne May. She's my friend to this day. She worked at the studio she was a client at the studio that I worked at. She was like, when she came in, everybody was like, oh my God, Yvonne's coming in. She was like a big client of theirs because she worked for, at the time, it was CBS Records, which was Columbia Records, right? Which is Sony Records now, right?
Right.
And she was the big client for the studio because they spent a lot of money there, right? And I see her in the hallways, and I went up to her and started talking about music, and I told her that I sing and that I wanted to be an artist, and she took the time to listen to me. And she was like, look, I heard, because I did this little demo at that studio, right? And she was like, listen, I think you have talent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to work with this lady now that worked at CBS, that my job is like, she's the big cheese over there. Like when they come in, she's like, oh my God, Yvonne May's coming. And she was tough with them, right?
Yeah.
And she took hold of me and kind of like took me by the wing. And from there on, she started taking me to all these industry parties, meeting all these artists, basically teaching me how to be a man in the new world that I was in. Not like my parents, because they knew what they knew, right? They knew how to raise me and to be a good human being. Yeah. But she taught me how to fit in this new world that I was in now, and how to talk and how to present myself and how to deal with situations. Her name was Yvonne May, and she's still my friend right now. And so she guided me. She also got me my next job, after that.
Okay.
And, she spent money on me, like helping develop me, like as an artist, as a producer. And so I'll never forget her. She was like my wing at that time in my life. And everybody needs somebody, right?
Yeah.
So she was that person for me. And and I'll never forget that, because from there, she got me my next job, which took me to the next place,
Right. Did you, just out of curiosity, any girlfriends or anything? You haven't mentioned any
girlfriends.
Oh, never mind then. That's like whatever, right?
we skipped all that.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, anybody that you were with maybe as a young adult when you're more like taking it more seriously, you're in a bigger arena work-wise and whatever,
When I was, I mean, if you want to get into that.
Let's get into the heartbreak. Come on, there's always a heartbreak.
He said it.
Yeah, let's get into it. Come on, man.
I'm sorry.
He said it.
Every man that's ever loved knows what a heartbreak is.
He's had his heartbreak.
You know,
that messed me up for a long time.
I want to hear about that.
Let's hear about that.
And I didn't realize it for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't realize what I was doing for a long time, right? So I was 12 years old.
Oh, hey.
Remember, I was out in the street already. I was breakdancing.
It's a prime time to get your heart broken. A prime time to get your heart broken.
So I had this girl. I'm not even gonna mention her name.
Nah. If you do, we'll bleep it.
Yeah, and I liked her, and we would like. thought we were like together. I gave her my ring. You know, I had a ring. I gave her my ring.
That's commitment right there.
Yeah.
That's commitment at 12. Listen, trust me, man. I'm with you. Keep going.
And we were cool for a while, and then she played me with one of my friends. And it broke my heart.
At 12?
And I was like,
was she like older? Was she 12
She was
too?
older than me, yes. I was 12. She was like 15, probably.
That's my,
I was 12, 13. She was 15.
He's pulling like that. He was pulling like that.
You had it like that, huh?
Yeah. It had its perks. It had its perks. Remember, it had its perks.
And
anyway.
It just changed me. And I didn't realize it changed me because I didn't feel like I needed to be faithful to anybody after that.
You were
You know
hurt.
what I mean? So yeah, I had girlfriends. I had a girl that I was with for 8 years.
Wow.
But in between that, I was, I was being young, right?
Yeah.
I was doing my thing. And then, I just kept moving on. Then that was 8 years, that relationship. Then that ended. And then I ended up being with someone who was an artist, like, because a singer, someone that maybe I thought understood me.
Yeah.
But that turned out to be even worse. that relationship made me realize when I got with my wife, who I'm with right now, that I had something beautiful.
Yeah.
Because when you go through something real bad, like a bad relationship, you realize when you have something good, and I realized I had something good with my wife, who I've been with 25 years now.
Oh, wow. Congratulations,
man.
man.
Congratulations.
So around 25 we met, and then by 27 we were like, all right,
okay,
we had a kid, and we stayed together, and then it took us a while to get married, but we got married.
Yeah.
So what healed that heartbreak? Because it happens.
That's a good question. That's an excellent question. That's an excellent question, because that heartbreak, because I remember when I got with the young lady before my wife, that was a heartbreak too, right?
Yeah,
because it was a bad relationship, but it was also a heartbreak.
And you were looking to. I feel like I found somebody that's compatible in the same industry
at that time.
My same lifestyles.
Right.
So
but that was a heartbreak too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I ended up getting sick off of that relationship, like physically sick. I ended up in the hospital.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, I had a bleeding ulcer.
Wow. You were stressed.
Oh
my God.
Exactly.
Love
I feel
does
you.
that to you.
And
I feel you.
And you hit it right on the nail when you said what healed that. What healed that was, I said to myself that I would never be in that situation again. I would never let myself have someone hurt, it doesn't matter who it is. I would never get to that point where I end up hurting myself, meaning like physically or like sick or stress, you know what I mean? And that's when the healing started. So I started reading. This is when, they say you don't learn until you want to learn.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I used to read books, but they would come out, but I started reading for the first time. And I started reading.
And how old are you then?
I'm 24.
Okay.
23,
Okay.
24,
Okay.
25,
All right. Just making sure
in
I'm
that
on the
area.
Okay.
And I started reading a lot of self-help books.
Right.
And just learning how to grow internally. You know what I'm saying? And just self-healing. And like he said, like, how did you self-heal? I started with that. I read a book by Anthony Robbins. Remember, I don't know if you know who Anthony Robbins is. And he led me down the first path of like, all right, I want to be better.
Yes.
I was already doing good. Like, I didn't realize it, but I was already doing good. Like I had a job, I had an apartment.
Yeah.
I had I was doing good, but I wasn't doing good inside,
Yeah.
And
it's interesting that you mentioned that because when I was going through my, that portion,
heartbreak.
Well, it was a catastrophe. Catastrophe. One of the books that actually was given to me was Tony Robbins, which was Awaken the Giant Within. And
same book.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned that because there were some things there that really really helped me overcome those things. So it's Pretty interesting. That's a pretty cool.
And that's what led me down the path of self-development and self-love and self-healing. And I started taking care of my body more, eating the right foods. And I've been doing this, what I do right now, for like 25 years. Started practicing yoga at that time. That's my first introduction to it.
Yeah.
So that was in my like 25, 20. And then I kept doing that, and I'm still doing that right now.
Yeah.
And I still feel like I still got more to go. Like you what they say, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to learn every day. You know?
That's awesome. You're open to opportunities and learning new things, which is a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? I have a question. So you say, so you said something, and I'm just paraphrasing because the way you said it stood out for me. You said that that experience brought you to a place where you're like, I realize I need to like take care of myself, basically, in essence, right? You needed to focus on. So when you said that, I was like, oh, so does that mean that you weren't going to give yourself to somebody in the way that you were, in terms of like, for a lack of better words, idolizing a relationship, that it got you to this place where you were self-destructive? Because that doesn't necessarily mean, and I sort of want to hear from you that, we've been together for 20 years too. And we care for each other deeply, obviously. Yeah. Thank you. And we love each other, but I'm doing things that I need to do for me, and he's doing, you know what I mean? Like, we love each other and we contribute to, collectively, but we also are individuals. So is that what you mean by that? Like, you weren't going to give to a relationship to the point where you're self.
No, because I give 100% to my relationship, but if my relationship ever got toxic, right, that I would not allow myself to fall down that path again. I have to wake up.
Okay.
Like, you look what's happening again. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't go down that path again. And it was more, like you said, like a path of, I wasn't good enough,
Gotcha.
or, like you weren't good enough when you absolutely were, you know? Yeah. And just to realize that, and to be aware of that, and to make sure that we beat ourselves up all the time.
Yeah.
We beat ourselves up over relationships, over all types of things, jobs, over other people. And I'm not beating myself up for anybody, unless, it's my family. I'll do whatever I have to do for my family.
Yeah.
But like, I just got to stay, because I'm no good to nobody else if I can't be good.
Yeah.
Such a basic principle, but very effective.
And the interesting thing is that I'm listening to everything that you're saying, and it's the experience of it, the experience of going through it. Because you mentioned, for all intents and purposes, I have a job, I'm good financially, I'm working hard, I'm doing all these things, but then this aspect of your life kind of like fell short. So it was almost as if it needed to be reintegrated. So that needed to break. It's that how you see it now, looking back in retrospect?
It was, yes. But it was also the time when I realized why I was the way I was, with other women, like before, because that's when I realized, the reason why you were like this is because of this girl that did this to you when you were 12, and now you're going through that again.
Yeah.
Don't make the same mistake going forward.
Now, what do you attribute that self-awareness? Because again, these are phrases that we throw in our society very quickly. That's self-awareness and self-actualization. This is an experience. What gave you the wherewithal, even at 25, to be able to be so introspective as to put those two things together, so far apart? Most of the time in our culture, we don't reflect. And like, what gave you the wherewithal?
That's a good, I gotta be honest, I've always felt like I was connected.
Okay.
To whatever you want to call it, a higher being, God, spirit, something. I've always felt that, and I believe that to this day. I've always had this connection. Like my friends used to laugh at me because I want to go see sunsets. You know what I
mean? We love that.
They must have gave you a hard time.
Yeah. They used to call me nature boy. You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to experience those things. You know what I'm saying? Like I was the guy who, when we go away, was like, yo, I want to wake up early to see the sunrise. You know?
Nice.
That's awesome. We would have loved hanging out with you.
Yeah.
I want to see the sunrise. So I think I've always had a connection. And then I just had to become aware, right, of it. And trust me, this was not a fast process. This was like little by little. And when I look back at it now, you know, and even today, right, like we all have to go through it. Like, what I'm going through this, you know, like some days I feel like shit. Okay, this is why you feel like this, you know, it's just awareness about who's around you, what's around you, what's going on, and just being able to step away from it and see it from another side, and then you could deal and then move on, you know.
Right. Put things into perspective. Yeah. So right now, my next, because you mentioned Yvonne brought you to, so let's go into the maturity stage. This is sort of like you're an adult now. You're in your career, right? This is where you want to be. Tell us about that. Yvonne took you to the next job that you said you got.
Right. So Yvonne May, she recommended me for a job being a post-production assistant, right? So I was in the room with a mix engineer. Her name was Sue Polino. She was a lady also. I'm always surrounded by these lady women.
Right, your sisters and everything. Yeah.
It was always women. Sue Polino, and she was a great engineer. She's still a great engineer. And so on the strength of Yvonne, Sue hired me and I became her assistant. And it was great because I really started learning, started being around some really big heavyweights, worked on some really cool projects with her, and started doing my own thing, becoming my own engineer. But you're gonna say something?
Yeah, I wanted to hear what are some of the school projects that.
I want to know about the projects. And what is if you don't mind, because I don't know anything about this. Like, what do you when you say
what was
an engineer? Right. Yeah, what were you doing?
So back in the 90s, right? Because this is in the 90s.
Oh, now,
yeah,
right? This is
like
I love the 90s.
Best era of music ever.
Sure is.
We were 90. We're talking about, let me see. I was in, so we're talking about 93 now.
Wow.
94, 95, 96.
Oh my gosh.
So, I used to do a lot of things. So I used to do, so for music videos, I used to get sound effects and put them in the music videos. I used to take curses out of rap records, because at that time rap was cursing a lot. We had the West Coast, we had gangster rap kind of come out. So I was able to work on some really cool projects, which was simple, just taking out the curse words. But I'll give you some. Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls. It was all a dream. I used to eat Word Up magazine. I worked on that video.
Oh wow.
Who Shot Ya?
Wow.
One More Chance.
Oh my goodness.
What?
Nas.
Nice.
So all these 90s hip hop artists, and nobody knew my face because I'm behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm behind the scenes. But I got to work with all these people. I got to work with Puff. A lot of the people that worked for him.
Now, did you actually meet these people?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you did
not Big and not Nas.
Okay,
but I met Puff.
Okay.
This first time I met Puff was he was working on Here Comes the Brand New
Flip.
Yes.
Flip it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was hot when it came out. I mean, and then the remix was forget about it. Sorry, go ahead. I diverged.
Exactly. And then he came with the next single for his artist, and that was one of the jobs where I had to find sound effects and put the sound effects in. It was like explosions. So I was doing a lot of they call that post editing and post sweetening.
Okay.
And I was able to work with Sue and then do some stuff on my own too. And work on those projects, work on Wu-Tang projects.
Oh my goodness.
I worked on what's that show? Oh my God. I just went blank. the real world.
Oh, yes.
That's the very first
very
couple
first
ones that
one.
came out.
Yeah.
Wow.
The first reality shows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I
the
love
real
that.
world, I got to work on that as well. It was just a bunch of hip hop 90s music, and we had all the accounts at that place. So at that time, everybody, media companies and music companies needed to come to these places to get their products and their commercials and their videos edited and their videos, post-production, audio wise.
Right.
So I was there.
Wow.
And it's amazing that I'm able to say this, because when I look back, I'm like, damn, I did a lot of cool stuff, but nobody would know that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all up here. I was behind the scenes,
Yeah.
But it was amazing, that moment in time also. And then, so when we moving on, so then I was there for a while. I was working on music. I was developing music, right? I was with a production company called Mad Music. We were putting artists, trying to get artists on, trying to get record deals for people. And then I made a mistake, right? We all make mistakes. I was chasing the money, and I went and took a job at Fox News Channel, which is the Fox News Channel we know right now.
Yeah,
right.
And it was up and coming back in the 90s.
It was 96. It was launching. It was just
correct.
coming.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was there before it launched, and I left music to go work at news to chase the money. And that was a big mistake for me at the time, because, I was chasing the money, right? I went from making, $35,000 as a 23-year-old to making $70,000.
Wow. Yeah. That's a big jump.
The money.
Yeah.
But when I look in hindsight, I should have just stayed in music still.
Right.
And built those relationships that I already had. Because I took 4 years out my life to work in news that I really didn't like the job,
Gotcha.
So let me ask you about that, because a lot of people struggle with that, with this particular scenario when it comes to careers. We always want more money, but we sacrifice something else in between.
Yeah.
Tell me about, let's dive a little deep into that. Because this is something that a lot of people have experienced. So tell me about the feeling now that you chase the money, you're working in a field in which you're beginning to recognize,
I don't want to be here.
I don't want to be here. Tell me about that realization and the transition through that realization.
Yeah, it was like, at first it was great, right? It was like, all right, I'm making this money,
What were you doing there?
I was an audio engineer. I was mixing live news.
Okay.
So when you see Bill O'Reilly, because I worked on that show too. When you see Bill O'Reilly on there, I'm mixing it. And then I'm also doing A2, they call it A2 work, which is miking people up. So I really got to meet all the guests that came in, because I had to get close to them.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I have to put the microphones on them, make sure they're here.
Yeah.
So I got to meet a lot of people doing that job, but it wasn't music. Right. And where I wanted to be was music. I was meeting politicians. I was meeting all these other type of people, which was cool. I'm not, mad at it.
Yeah.
But I felt like it took me away from my path a little bit, because and I ended up getting on the path again, right? Because while I was working at Fox, when I got home, I would work on music, right?
Okay.
So I was always doing music at the same time. But if I would have just been doing music 100%, I think it would have been a easier journey, right? Probably something different probably would have happened, but whatever. We can't look back.
No, yeah.
We just look forward. But when I think about that, that was a moment that it kind of slowed me down, and I knew that. And so I was there for 4 years, and then I finally realized that it was time to go, and I found out that BT was coming to New York, Black Entertainment Television.
Yeah.
And I had a great job. I was making money. I had a 401k. I had full
security,
medical, everything.
Yeah.
And I left it to go work at a job that was not giving me you know, I was a freelancer. I was making probably the same money, but I didn't have no benefits. I didn't have any 401k. I didn't have any of that, that extra stuff. I was a freelancer. I was a self-employed person now.
Okay.
But I took the job because I did both of them for like 2 weeks to see how. So I would wake up at 6 a.m. to go to Fox, and then go to BT at like 1 to work till 12 midnight.
Wow.
So it was long. But then I realized, you know what, no matter what, this is where I got to be.
Right.
So it was music. I started working on the show 106 in Park.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Which was a great show.
Yeah.
I worked on it from day one. And when I realized that, I said, this is going to be special. This show is going to be special. And I just left Fox. I remember telling my, I guess my boss that I'm leaving. He was like, what are you doing? Like, you're going to come back.
Nah.
Nah.
Never went back.
Nah, I never came back. And I loved it. I loved that job. That was a great job. I was there 15 years as a freelancer.
Wow.
I got to produce music on all the for the shows. I got to meet amazing artists. I got to work with amazing artists. What I did there was I did the same thing. I had to mic people up. I also dealt with the bands, setting up the bands.
Okay.
So I really got to deal and work with the artists. So you talk about Jay, Kanye, Rihanna.
Yeah.
I mean, you name it. I've seen everybody that was on that show.
Yeah. Lots of
So
people.
I got to collaborate and work with them, and it was fun, you know. And at the same time, I also got to do my own music with some of them too, like with Wyclef. I got to be in the studio with Wyclef.
Oh, okay.
To work with Clef.
Nice.
I also, on my own, I got to work with a guy named Robert Clavillis. We became partners. And I don't know if you know Robert Clavillis, CNC Music Factory.
I was going to say, it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure. I didn't put it with
Factory.
that, though. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah. I know who they are, but I didn't put, I must have, I don't know.
But
it was
he was the producer. It was him, Clavillis and Cole. And they were producers. They were producing partner team. And then Cole died. And then Rob started doing his own thing. And we met, and he was like, listen, I want to get into this, to hip hop, because he was doing dance music back then.
Yeah.
And he was like, I feel like hip hop is the way to go right now. This was like 98, you know?
Yeah.
98 and 99. And so we became partners, and we I brought him some artists, and we had a hit record with an artist named Stagger Lee with a song called Rock Your Body in New York. It was really big. I got to travel the country. I got to produce records. I made some money, you know?
Yeah.
So it was, you know, that whole period was great when in the early 2000s. And then things after a while, things separate. Me and Robert separated as a production company, but we're still friends right now. And I went back to 106 because I took a break because I was touring. And they allowed me to come back. You know, Ty Blackman. Shout out to Ty Blackman.
Let me interrupt you just really fast, because this is something that I want to touch on. Did you formally go to school to learn all the technical stuff? So you learned all this stuff. And again, I want to touch on this because some of the people that we want to reach, they have to understand this process that you went through. You knew your passion, but you showed up, and you showed up constantly.
Yeah.
So, and for a long period of time.
And sacrificed.
A lot to sit next to Yvonne and I forgot her name.
Sue.
And Sue. Yeah. This is something that explain that to me, because I like dealing in the abstract. Because that's something that it's not just a simple input output, or you go to school and you learn the technical stuff and come back. There's a passion and a desire that is an intangible that drove you through all this.
Right. So we go back, after I got the job, right? The summer of my high school year, I got that job. So I went through the summer, and the thing that everybody did was like, all right, we go to college.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I went to college, right? I kept my job, right? But I was going to go to school around my job, right? So I went to BMCC Community College in Manhattan, and my classes were at 8 a.m. to about 10. I had to be at work at 11. So I would do a class in the morning, and then I would go to work. I would work from 10 to 6, and then I would have a 7 o'clock class back to school from 7 to 10.
Oh, wow.
And then I would do it over again.
Every day?
Every day. Every day. And then, so I did that for about 6 months, right? I did that for about 6 months. And, you know, in that 6 months, so I've been working there now 9 months now, right? Because they hired me in June, and now we're like in the next year, like the beginning of the year, and I get a raise. So now if I'm 350, now I'm making like 550 a week, and I'm like, I'm doing what I want to do. I'm learning what I got to learn.
Yeah.
Why do I need to go to college? And so I left, and I just said, you know what, I'm gonna go full steam ahead with this job and learn what I got to learn. So I never got to finish college. I went for, I guess, 8 months, and then I dropped out, and I was like, I'm just gonna pursue what I'm doing right now. And that's what happened with school. I learned on the job.
You learned on the job.
I learned on the job. Everything I learned was on the job, and just because of passion and curiosity. And I want to touch on that, because again, we are, you know, we put such a big emphasis on formal education, and again, I'm not discrediting it, and no, it's important. It's important, but there's many people that feel that that's not their path, but they also have to understand that if you're going to pursue something else, you have to put in the dedication, you have to put in the passion, you gotta put in the work, and you have to be open to learn. And that's one of the parts that epitomizes like your story to me, because there's, you know, everybody wants to shine, but you have to put in the effort for it, and that's what you're alluding to. Yeah, my opinion about school right now for kids is that if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be an architect, if you want to code, and I mean, even that you could teach. I understand going to 4 years, you know, to college, and the relationship part of college is amazing too, right? Like that's
experiences.
That's important, because you build some of those relationships that last forever. But right now we live in a world where everything is right here. Anything you need to find, anything you need to learn, anything you need to know, it's at your fingertips. YouTube is the biggest school in the world. Right? You have all types of people willing to teach. Like this podcast is a lesson. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it has been,
No, but I'm saying if you were viewing it and somebody would just wanted to, it's a lesson.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of life lessons being taught.
Absolutely.
If you need technical skill, like for audio, I would never go to school for audio, because number one, technology changes so fast that once the school has it, they're behind.
That's true. That's a good point.
YouTube, you type in whatever. I've taught myself everything through YouTube. Pretty much.
So has he.
So
has he.
I'm sure you have too.
But I'm with you. Like when you had mentioned earlier that, or maybe it was Omar who mentioned it, because Omar says this frequently. But like as an individual who, I went all the way. Like postgraduate. And it's been a lot of work for me, you know, to get to the stage that I'm at, where I'm at a dissertation. But this is my path. Like I wanted to do this, and I knew that what I want to do required having those initials, even though I'm not a big fan of that. Being a doctor for what I want to do was something that I needed to pursue. But I'm also by nature, I think I'm an academic. I like school. When I'm not in school, I'm like, I'm not writing any papers. What's going on? I need to research. I need to do something, right? But I think that the thing for me really that is most noticeable or more notable is that it's your formative years that it doesn't allow, and I think you touched on this, is that it doesn't give you what you need to drive the passion for what you want to do later in life, right? You don't get those skills. You don't get the social skills. You know, you have to sit in a class, everybody sits in a row, everybody's facing forward. You don't know how to interact with people and finances and all of the things that are so credit. I didn't know about credit, writing a check. I didn't know about all this stuff. No. And those are things that were so like important for people. And kids nowadays, they just don't get that. And now, like you said, we have the phone, and you just tick it, and you're done, you know? But even this takes away from that experience, right? And so I feel like what you're saying is that, you know, you went through school and you had the wherewithal to have this understanding and follow your passion, you know, and you were able to sort of, with your drive and your energy and your desire to be in this field, you did what it took to put yourself in a position where you were like, this is what I'm going to do. And you even veered from that to, you know, chasing money or whatever, but that was another experience for you. And you realize I need to stick with my
what
passion.
I want to do.
Right.
What's going to make me happy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, we need those formative years. And if you choose to go on and do, you know, go to college and do all, because I mean, Omar doesn't want to go on for any more school, but I wanted to go all the way. I was like, this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? But it's like that. It's like something that's missing in society. We don't cultivate that in people. We don't get them to sort of honor that passion that they have within them and that drive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a systematic. I think that's something that's designed to me personally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, do we really want to make everybody? We need workers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that we're taught, especially in like public school and stuff like that, when you go to college, you have more, you know, you could focus, right? But especially like high school and middle school, it's more about training you to be a worker.
Yeah.
A wage earner instead of being a boss, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of starting your own business, you know? I think people are realizing that now, you know, finally, because they're like, wait a minute, I went to school, I got $100,000 of debt, and I'm making $20 an hour. Wait, that ain't right.
It's not adding up.
It's not adding up.
It's not adding up.
For real.
And you know, I was lucky that I realized that early.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would have been in debt too and done that, you know. But I think that it's something that's devised. Like if we really go back, I mean, I don't want to go deep into all this, you know, but if we really go back on who developed our educational system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That says it all.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And the reasons behind it too. I mean, I think that we are at a place in time right now, and you see it with the great exodus from work. You see the reaction, and a lot of people really can't make sense of it because it's something that is within us telling us, well, wait a minute, this is not right. We have a raw deal. We have to change things. We have to evolve, and things have to change. And I think the beauty about your story is that you realize that early.
Yeah.
And I seen a couple of your episodes in the podcast, and I see the sharing that you're doing to allow people to see that. So let's talk about that now, because it's like a perfect segue to talk about what you're doing now, because your career has been passion driven, and you took advantage of opportunities that were put in front of you. So right now, at this stage in your life, you've experienced some great things. You've done some amazing things. You're a part of a culture that has globalized and changed the world. What are you up to now? What talk to us about what you're doing right now.
Right now, it's just funny you asked me that, because right now I feel like I'm at a transition stage right now.
Okay.
You know, because and it's because of this whole COVID thing, right? This really changed a lot for everybody, right?
Definitely.
Being inside, I think a lot of people realized, wait a minute, like you said, something ain't right. Something is not right. Like it's a great awakening, I think, that's happening right now. And I've always felt like, I think I've reached my limit when it came to TV. Like I've done everything that I could do in my field. I got to do something different, right?
Okay.
I still love music, and the reason why I'm still in music is because of my kids, which I want to talk about. We can talk about
definitely.
right? Yeah. But for me now, I'm always going to work on music because I love music, right? But for me now, I'm going to transition into the whole crypto space.
Okay.
I really enjoy and think that that's the next internet for us. Like think of the internet in the 90s. We're in the crypto space, and this is not only financial. Everybody's when I start talking about crypto, people think it's about money all the time, and it's not really about money. It's about what it's gonna do for creatives, for and like NFTs, non-fungible tokens, what it's gonna do for artists for the first time in history. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, touch on that, because I'm a little familiar with the idea of crypto. I'm blockchain. I know a little bit about it. I'm not really too versed in it, but the concept behind it is really about democratizing finances. Could you talk on that? Because a lot of people don't see what's coming down the line. This is really decentralizing the banking system.
Well, it's decentralizing the banking system, but it's also decentralizing culture too.
Yes.
Right. But let's start with finances, right? Because that's the first thing that people think about when they think of crypto. So imagine you being your own bank. Okay. So that's basically what crypto is. So right now, or throughout history, right? I mean, we could go into monetary policy too, but the game is rigged against us.
Yes.
From the jump, right? Because the way the banking system is,
definitely,
right? Yeah. So crypto promises, because there's still a possibility that this promise won't come to pass because of government legislation. Government is not very happy, or I don't think they want to give up their power of controlling money. So what crypto allows is me and you to transact without a bank,
without a third party. So right now, to send you some money, I got to go through Chase, Zelle, I got to go through PayPal, I got to go through all these things. Imagine transacting like we send a text to each other. Yeah.
Or like if I give you cash and you give me cash, you know what I'm saying? Like it's given us access to deal with each other decentralized, meaning that they don't have to know where everything is, where our money is going.
Neither do they have to get a cut from it too.
Right. I was going to say, they don't get anything out of it then either.
No, for instance, like one of the things that I want you to talk about this, because most people don't know, is that the Federal Reserve, there's nothing federal about it. And
it's a corporation.
But there's things like that I know that you're trying to educate people on. So keep going, because these are things that are really important for people that come from our communities.
Because we don't know. Most people don't know.
They don't.
Yeah. So I mean, we could go back to 1913 when the Federal Reserve was brought together by a bunch of bankers that came together to create the Federal Reserve. It's called federal, but there's nothing federal about it.
Yeah. You're
so
right.
they basically lend our government the money to lend to banks, and the banks have this thing called fractional reserve lending, which they take our money, right? And they get to lend it out to everybody. But we don't make anything off of that.
Correct.
They make all the money off of that. And they also inflate the money, right? Look at what's going on right now, right?
Yeah.
The reason why our country is even surviving is because our country is printing money, and that hurts us. We don't even realize it. It's a hidden tax on us.
Yeah.
People think, oh, things just go up in price. No, they don't have to. It's the Federal Reserve manipulating the money to whatever they deem needs to be done, basically, right? The system works for the higher ups, and it doesn't work for the people below. So crypto brings promise that your money won't inflate, right? Because Bitcoin, you can only make a certain amount. It keeps people in check when it comes to spending. Like, our government loves to spend money, and they love to spend it by printing more money, which devalues the money, which makes things more expensive. Look at what we're going through, like, right now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people don't understand too is the difference. Most people think that the dollar is backed up by gold.
It's not. 1971, Nixon took it off the gold standard.
And can you explain to people what the difference is between that and a fiat currency? Because I know that this is one of the things that crypto is trying to fight against.
Right. Fiat currency is what we were talking about right now. And the reason why fiat is so, I guess, detrimental to society, right? That's the word, is because the governments are allowed to print as much of it as they want. If you look at countries like Venezuela, like Argentina, like Zimbabwe, like the Weimar Republic in Germany in the 1940s, they hyperinflated their money and left people decimated because they were printing so much money to pay for the things that they couldn't afford, like us.
Yeah.
Like imagine us doing that.
Yeah,
we would be in jail.
Yeah, we'd be wrong. Yeah, definitely. For the rest of our lives. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the government just prints money, and that's what's causing all this inflation. And crypto promises to keep that in check, right? And there's a lot of debate about is that really going to happen, right? But the thing I know about Bitcoin is that there's only going to be a certain amount printed or made. And there's never going to be more. So the price goes up. That's why the price goes up so much. That's why people are like, why $60,000 for that?
Yeah.
Why? And it's because the demand is there and the price is going up. But I think crypto is the future, and it's not only finances. It's going to be real estate. It's going to be artwork. It's going to be music. It's going to be sports. So many things that it's going to touch in the future. Like, we can't even imagine. You heard of Mark Zuckerberg with his metaverse?
Metaverse, yeah.
Right. Crypto will be a big part of that. Because people will be able to transact with each other. I'll be able to send you money. Your podcast, if I see it and I like it, I'll be able to be like, whoop.
Right.
And you could do that right now with third parties too, but it'll be direct. I just think that it's going to be the future. And that's why I want to work in that field. Because, like, for the music, right? Because I always come back to music. Artists have always got the raw deal of the deal.
That is true.
Like, if you look at every dollar spent, an artist probably makes 12% of that dollar, which is 12 cents.
Yeah.
And that's because all these middlemen take a cut in between that. And these contracts are so unfair that an artist ends up, being in debt for the duration of their contract. So crypto's promised to change that, because now artists, if you have a fan base, could raise their own capital to support their venture expenses. They fund their own projects. They could start paying for the things that they need, and that's coming from the people. But not only will the artists benefit, the fans will benefit as well, because now you could say you want to buy that Mark Anthony NFT, right? And with that Mark Anthony NFT, you get a percentage of the royalties of the song. So think about it. So imagine you being a fan of somebody, but also able to make a monetary gain off of it.
Yeah.
That you'd be a super fan now.
Correct.
Because not only are you a big fan, you're making money with.
You're motivated.
You're participating in the process,
in the uptake, in the growth,
in the growth of the artist.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things that excite me about the space, and the only thing that could hurt and detract is government. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years with government regulation. But I think they would be shooting themselves in the foot, right? Somebody made a great analogy. Imagine saying, no, I don't want to get into the automobile. I'm happy with horse and buggy.
Yeah. Pennsylvania, where are you?
That's funny. That's great. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So
I wasn't sure where you were going.
I get it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So imagine, a country saying that, like, no, I don't want to get into automobile. I just want to stick with the horse and buggy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we would be shooting ourselves in the foot, because we would hamper innovation in this country.
Definitely.
And that's go ahead.
So when it comes to Bitcoin, what involvement do you want to be an investor in it and use it to create NFTs for artists? What will be your process that you really want to focus on?
I'm already an investor.
Okay.
So I've been in since 2018. So I'm already an investor and I'm learning.
Okay.
That's why I'm excited, because it's like I'm learning something totally new
Different
again, right? So I'm learning how to become an investor, and I'm doing all right with that. But I'm also learning how to create NFTs with my kids.
Okay.
Because they're going to be the future, right? So they're so young right now, that the thing about NFTs is that NFTs will gain value. Not every NFT is going to be a successful NFT, right?
Correct.
It depends on who it is, right? So imagine, we were talking about Biggie. Imagine owning the Ready to Die NFT from Biggie Smalls 20 years ago. How valuable would that be right now?
Extremely.
Yeah, very.
So that's how I think about with my kids with NFTs. They're really young. My daughter's 16 years old. She put out an NFT when she was 15 years old. When she wins a Grammy in 10 years, people are gonna be like, where's that? And they're gonna go back and look for anything that she has, and it's gonna be valuable. So it's important that especially if you're an artist right now, that you start creating these, and because it's like a collectible, right? And then you could do that the royalty thing too, right? Right now we're just doing like a piece of artwork with the music and some animation, and that's the NFT. But the thing about NFTs is that it's a non-fungible token, right? They could only be one of a kind, right? So you can make a series of them, right? But what's good about it is that who owns it, when it was made, the authenticity of it. That's what makes it great. A lot of people can't understand it because they're like, can't you take a screenshot of that?
No.
Yeah, you could take a screenshot of it.
Yeah.
But there's this blockchain technology, which is completely different. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So the blockchain is what makes you understand who owns it. Like you could take a picture. Like I could take a picture of the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
But there's a guy who we know owns it.
Right.
And that's what blockchain does. It shows ownership, proof of ownership.
That's interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to understand. It takes a little second to really.
Yeah. This is the first time I'm hearing all this stuff.
This is also the evolution of again, you're looking at getting rid of the third party, and democratizing economics, and what it does is that it allows people also, because the other side is, if you make a bad investment, you're gonna eventually pay for it, which it takes a lot of what causes the problems, which are the regulations and like people's ideas as to what it is. It makes it just this is what it is, and this is where it's been, and this is where it belongs. Anything other than that doesn't really mean anything because it's right here. So that's kind of like what you're saying that blockchain is. It's about there's no question. Everything is locked and secure and safe. Therefore, it's true.
Right. Like Bitcoin has never been hacked. You know, Google has been hacked.
Yeah.
You know, there's a bunch of companies that were hacked. You know, every time you turn around, there's another company being hacked. But blockchain still hasn't. You know, Bitcoin still hasn't been hacked, so it's proven that it's durable. You know, and one of the last things I want to say about crypto is that in the world there are about 2 billion people that are totally unbanked. Wow. Meaning that they don't have access to a bank account, right? We think of it and we take it for granted that we have a bank account, but we got 2 billion people in the world that don't participate in the economy. They have to go with cash to buy. They don't have a credit card, but they all have a phone. So that's what crypto is going to do. It's going to help 2 billion people participate in the world, in the economy. So imagine I could send someone in Yugoslavia, some Bitcoin, right? As long as they have a wallet and a phone.
That's interesting.
So it's a really interesting space. So I'm excited about it, and that's where that's where I'm transitioning to right now.
Okay.
And so it's like I'm starting over again. You know, I still do some of my other work, of course, but that's where I want to be, and that's where I'm going to go.
If you enjoy our discussions, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Also, leave us some comments. We want to hear your feedback. If you're interested in knowing more about A Soul's Quest, make sure you check us out on our website at asoulsquest.com.